Hey everyone, this is Ryan McNickle with the oral portion of the final exam for multicultural education. So what I'm going to do is I'm talking about a couple of course objectives that I feel like I've mastered as a result of what I've done in the course so far this summer. I'm also going to talk about some future plans that I have and some networking and organizations that I think pertain well to multicultural education. So the first objective that I feel that I've mastered, done a very solid job with, is the objective that is about recognizing prejudice and oppressive institutional structures in education that marginalize gifted students from culturally diverse backgrounds, specifically race, class, gender, and language issues. I think this is something that we covered a bunch in this class, and a good amount of this stuff was stuff I either didn't know a ton about, or stuff that going in I hadn't really ever heard about, at least in the details that we kind of went into it. The first big thing that I think that kind of opened my eyes to this specific objective was the U46 case that we learned about. I was shocked at the kind of the level that the school district in that case went to kind of exclude Hispanics from being part of their gifted program. And I was even more shocked at when kind of confronted with these issues, the response of the school district was basically, we didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing inherently wrong with the way that we're identifying students or placing students. You always kind of hear about those things and imagine those things happening in different parts of the United States, but to really read about it was really impactful and allowed me really to recognize just how oppressive some of these school districts were towards marginalized groups. The Calhoun County Schools 60 Minutes case that we read about was also really interesting for the same reason. Again, it was really shocking not only to hear about the ways that the schools were basically segregated, but again also the kind of the response from some of the people within power in the school district, and kind of the responses towards people who were trying to fight against it and try to bring light to the fact that their schools were segregated. More than 40 years since Brown versus Board of Education. And then the article from Wells and Cerna that we read about detracking was also something that really, again, kind of opened my eyes to some of the institutional prejudices and oppression. Just kind of the discussion about how parents and what they call the local elites would go to, the lengths they would go to try to make sure that the things remained as they were and there was no changing of tracks, even when it was fairly clear that some of these tracking efforts were discriminatory or racist. So I felt that the discussion of detracking and the whole kind of way they went about it and talking about different things that parents would do were really enlightening, again, to show that not only are school districts complicit in some of the really negative things that happen to culturally diverse students, but also parents and the quote unquote important parents and the role that they play in that as well. The second objective that I feel like I've done a pretty good job with this summer has been to understand the role of multiculturalism in addressing patterns of achievement and underachievement among underrepresented populations of gifted students. I feel like that's something that, again, we touched on a whole bunch. A lot of different readings, a lot of different parts of the Ford text touched on the ways that we can get culturally diverse groups of gifted students to achieve, but also ways that they're going to underachieve if things are done improperly. And we talked about identification and how if we're identifying students in a way that is not kind of beneficial to them in terms of having teachers simply do a checklist but not giving those teachers any information about what gifted students look like, what a gifted student who is twice exceptional or a gifted student who is part of a minority group, how they're going to be different than a quote unquote ideal or gifted student that everyone thinks about. If you don't give any training to those teachers, then they're going to fail in identifying these students. And if we don't do anything to make sure that either teachers are trained in how to identify minority students or the identification procedures are such that it's not biased towards any different groups. If we don't do that, then you're going to have not only under-identification, but also potentially underachievement. And if we do that, then we should have achievement and high levels of achievement for these underrepresented groups. The text touched on parental involvement and how important that was in making sure, not for just gifted students, but for any students, how important that would be, especially for these underserved, underrepresented populations, how much parental involvement can help not only with making sure their students are properly identified and there's nothing improper taking place in that respect, but also in just the achievement of the kid to be more involved. Learning about multicultural perspectives and making sure that the curriculum and making sure that, again, identification practices and all those things are done in a way that's respectful of different cultures and not kind of set up in the view or through the eyes of a white person with a Eurocentric view. Really making sure that everyone has some experience with different cultures and multiculturalism to make sure that they're presenting their curriculum or designing instruction, designing classes, anything in a way that's, again, going to be open to everyone. Having a diverse faculty is another big thing, and making sure that these underrepresented groups have role models and have people that they can go to when issues come up. And in my school specifically, we have one African American teacher in a school that's over 50% African American, and that's something that is really troubling to me and a lot of teachers at my school, because there isn't someone for these students to look up to or to even go to about things. I kind of touched on this in one of my discussions, but I can't really say to a black female student, I understand what you're going through. I can be supportive and I can help and answer questions and things like that, but I don't know what students from different racial cultural groups are going through. I can't say that to them, to the point where they're going to really believe that I understand what they're going through. But having diversity in a faculty, having African Americans and Hispanics, Asian Americans within that faculty would create such a diverse set of people and ideas that would benefit a lot of things. Counseling was also something that we talked about, really affecting achievement or underachievement of these underrepresented groups. If they're kind of counseled in the correct way, then you can see achievement. If not, you might have underachievement. As for my future plans, I'd like to really kind of put together some professional development for my faculty. I know that just this past summer, one of my assistant principals was also kind of doing a kind of equity and diversity workshop for about a week. So I'd really like to talk to her about kind of what I've learned this summer and kind of what she did, and hopefully put together a little something in a faculty meeting or before the year starts that has to do with some of the things we learned about. I also think it's really important to stay current on multicultural issues. Again, I kind of touched on this in one of my discussions, but I feel like in 20 years, I want to still feel like I know and understand what's going on with multicultural issues. 20 years ago, attitudes and ideas and issues were totally different than they are now. Maybe not totally different, but there are certain big differences in terms of what was appropriate, what were the biggest issues, what were the things that people were really fighting for. And 20 years from now, I'd like to hopefully kind of be, again, very current. So I plan on staying current with issues and how best to handle multicultural issues in school, and also being more of an advocate. Really trying to be more vocal and standing up for things that I see are wrong. In terms of a couple of organizations, I found both of these online pretty quickly. Looked through a lot of these websites, and they seem like really, really great resources. The National Association for Multicultural Education, or NAME, had tons of good stuff. It had information about like workshops and conferences. It had resources for teachers, resources for students, resources for like a faculty meeting sort of thing, to kind of get people thinking about multicultural education. The same is true with the Multicultural Education Pavilion. Had the same kinds of things, information about like workshops and things that you could give to other teachers, to students, to anybody at a school setting to kind of get them thinking about that. My district also, just this year, this coming year, is going to be starting a diversity initiative that has to do with trying to bring in members of the community, of our African American community, and kind of giving them some more power in decision making at the school district level. So I'd like to kind of get involved in that a little bit. And that's basically it. Really enjoyed the class. Looking forward to working with some of you guys in the future. Thanks.